beyond the skies. You and I, we're breaking bounds on Baobab.
Thank you so much for joining us for this event, how to actually thrive beyond graduation. My name is Dorothy Nakagwa, and I am the AIR coordinator. I'll just be taking you through the first part of this event, and then I'll let Ahmed, the main host of this event, take over. So just before we get started, I'm going to have a few housekeeping rules so that we keep this organized and there's no as much distractions. So the first thing is, please make sure you are on mute, and that helps us avoid any distractions and background noises from your end. I would also encourage you that as the event goes on and you have your questions, please put them in chat. Yes, I think that's the thing that I have for you right now. Be sure to let us know in the chat where you're coming from so we can get to know where everyone is joining in from. Yeah, with that said, Ahmed, please, take over.
Thank you, Dorothy. Right, I guess I can start now. Thank you, Dorothy. Hi, everyone. My name is Ahmed Lugya, and I'm thrilled to have two amazing guests with me here today. That's Angela and Victor. And if any of you in the audience is feeling uncertain about what comes next after graduation, you're in the right place. We'll be sharing real-life stories and practical advice and answering some of your questions about landing a first job, staying motivated, and overcoming challenges. But before we get into that, let's start by introducing our guests. Angela, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, Ahmed. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm delighted to come and share my own story of how I navigated life after graduation. My name is Angela Nantambi. I'm a Ugandan, currently based in Arizona, and currently I am the EdTech Innovation Fellow at EdPlus, Arizona State University, and my work involves working with education products and how we can continue to increase access to education for everybody. In my fun lay time, I like to read a good book. I love to ride my bicycle, take a good swim, and just sleep, because sleep is good for the soul. So yeah, that's a bit about me. I'll share more as we go along. Thank you for having me, Ahmed.
Thank you, Angela. Victor, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet everyone. My name is Victor. I'm based in the beautiful city of Toronto, out here in Canada. And for work, I work with Crestview, and I'm also the founder of Civic Technologies and Alliance Software Services. Both companies are based here in Toronto. And for leisure, I really like to meet my friends, Ahmed and Dokas. And I like to read books and pretty much go out. I'm an outdoor person. So yeah, that's pretty much about me. And I look forward to learning from all of you.
Thank you so much, Victor. I feel so much pressure being able to speak to both of you at the same time. And without further ado, let's dive into it. Victor, what was your biggest challenge when you transitioned from school to your current role, and how did you handle it?
Again, thank you, Ahmed. I kind of feel like that's a question that I don't think I have a right answer, because the challenges keep evolving as you go. Life after school is it's a very long life. It's not like 2 years or 3 years. It's a very long life. But I think as an immigrant in Canada, as many immigrants wherever you are, the biggest challenge is to acknowledge that you are in a foreign land and the rules are completely different. So first off is the first challenge was to know that while my peers were able to get jobs and get started right away, I was working on like 2-3 steps behind. I had 2-3 steps behind than where they were. I had to overcome first the immigration challenges. I had to find out what I needed to get started to even get a job, get a work permit. And then the other thing is housing. But how did I overcome these challenges? First of all, when you acknowledge that the rules are different, then you know you're going to have to play different. For example, if you know that you're in Canada and you need a work permit, you're going to prioritize that rather than prioritizing hunting for a job. And then you're going to prioritize the neighborhood you're going to stay in, and you're going to prioritize how you keep your circle close. So the first thing or the first advice that I can share with people that are ending their school is to know and acknowledge where you are. If you're back home, the rules may be different from what you're experiencing. If you're in a foreign land, the rules are totally different. And prioritize what's important first. Yes, getting a job is good, but you need to know the rules of even getting there. And then the other thing is to acknowledge that this is not a short-term thing. This is not a four months term or 1 year term or whatever it is. This is a long-term thing. So be kind to yourself. I had to be kind to myself. I had to be kind because doing something that's going to be like 20, 30 years of your life requires you to acknowledge that this is a long-term thing. Yeah, I don't know. That's how I can briefly wrap up the last 3 years of my life. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Victor. And I can relate to some of the challenges that you brought up here. Angela, how about you? What are some of the toughest moments you've gone through after leaving school, and how did you manage to stay motivated through all these tough moments?
Right. Thank you so much, Ahmed. And Victor, I totally relate to some of the things you highlighted. But I'm going to take us back to the time that I actually graduated for the first time. I graduated from Ashesi in Ghana. And after 4 years, I was expected, 1, to find a job, and 2, to either move back to my country, Uganda, or to stay in Ghana and find a job. But like Victor said, understanding where you are is really important in helping you move forward. So for me, one of the challenges that I faced was decision making. What was the right decision for me in that moment? Should I stay in Ghana? And if I stayed in Ghana, what did that look like for me immigration-wise? Because now I didn't have anyone taking care of me. I was on a scholarship with the MasterCard Foundation, as everybody else is, I think, on this call. And the dynamics of living on your own in a foreign land hit very differently after you're done with the scholarship. So ultimately, I decided that, you know what, it's been 4 years, Ghana, you've been so good, but I'm leaving. It's okay. I'm going back home. So I went back to Uganda, and the challenges there were more on the social aspect, really moving back home after being away for such a long period of time, trying to trying to integrate again into the system with other students, other graduates that were looking for the same jobs I was looking for, and were coming from pretty good institutions in the country, and I was coming from an institution that barely anyone knew about it. So the challenge was, how do I talk about myself and tell people that I come from a very good institution in Ghana, and I'll be a valuable addition to their team? It was a tough one because people didn't know about Ashesi, and the expectation always is, if you study abroad, you're probably in the UK or the London or the Canada or the US. No. I was in Accra, Ghana, and I can't deny my experience was wholesome, but people struggled to understand where I was coming from. So that was a big challenge. And how I really navigated that was I relied on the networks that I had. So in my transition to finding a job after school, I connected with a couple of people right before I graduated. And those people happened to live in Uganda. And those people happened to be alumni of Ashesi University. So I knew going back to Uganda, these were my #1 connection, because they knew which school I attended, they knew what I could do, and they could potentially help me get a job. So I relied on those people because I knew going in and fighting and applying to jobs was going to be a challenge, because people hardly knew where I was coming from. So, and I was competing with people from institutions that people knew. So that was a big challenge for sure. And I just relied on the people that I knew to navigate that process.
Thank you so much, Angela. And I believe everyone on this call strongly relates to the challenges that both of you have been able to share with us. I applaud you for that. I acknowledge the fact that you brought up the aspect of tapping into your network and being able to reach out to the people that could help you. And we'll look into that later on in the questions that we'll be looking at. Victor, while going through your bio, I realized that you're an entrepreneur. Can you tell us what inspired you to start your own business and how you navigated those early stages?
Yeah, thank you, Ahmed. First off, the business is really Civic Technologies. It's a tech company here in Toronto. What we do, we develop software, and that includes websites, software systems, business systems, and we recently launched an app. It's called Civic Time. If you want, you can check it out. So one of the challenges is that the decision of even starting a business in a foreign land, that alone is not something that you wake up and do. When I was at grad school, I thought I would do a PhD and probably be a professor. I used to admire so many professors at UFT, but as I moved on through grad school, I had a professor called Amran. He told me that what I would advise is that go out in the world, explore a bit, discover yourself, and if you feel like this is what you really want to do, come back to UFT. The door is open, and you can do your PhD and pursue academic. And honestly, looking back at my early life at undergrad, I started developing software way back in 2015 when I was at Macquarie, 2015, 2016. And this has been an ongoing journey. It's been, I normally interact with people outside my network. So people who are in business, people who are in organizations, people who are doing day-to-day jobs. And by that, I've been able to gain valuable insights on what's challenging people, and then sitting and seeing if tech can solve it. So that background, I came with it to Canada, and I came with it to UFT. And I always thought that there must be something I can do here. There must be a problem that I can solve. There must be a way whereby I can use all my knowledge from 2015. I moved to Canada in 2019 and graduated in 2021. That's a wealth of 7 years, 7 years of knowing what to do. So coming to the decision of building out a business is that it came through a discussion with one of my friends who is running a business here. I discovered that he had a challenge, first off, and talking to other peers in his network, I discovered this is a challenge that's overlooked. So in one of our interactions, I was like, I'll develop a software and you can use it for your business. And little did I know that that's going to spring into something that it is right now. So looking at the clients that we have, the people that we work with. So it all came through interacting and talking to networks to learn more than how are you doing, what are you doing with life, asking those questions of what are you doing for business, how is business, what are the challenges, asking those questions that are beyond of what are you doing, how are you. It has helped me. It helped me start this journey of a business. If I knew it, I had to register a company, I had to find an accountant, and it was learning on the go. So nothing was figured out. I wasn't ready, but I did it. So that's the brief description of how I landed into the entrepreneurship thing. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Victor. And I still recall some of the questions that you had around the business at the start of, do I need to go there in person? Do I have to call them? And I recall it was post-pandemic where most offices were still locked. Back to you, Angela. You've worked in multiple roles and in many countries. And the question I have for you on this is, what skills did you find most valuable that weren't necessarily taught in school?
How much time do I have for this one? I have a lot to blame on the education system that we all go through. But by the way, hats off to you, Victor, for being able to run a business, start a business and run it in a foreign land, because that's not an easy one to do. So what skills have I seen? I would say soft skills. So a lot of us go through school and, are specializing in certain fields, and we get a lot of knowledge in those fields, how to be a business person, how to be an engineer, how to be an IT specialist, how to be all these things, right? But then when we get out of the school environment, a lot of times, what is going to help us connect to the next job is really your soft skills, people skills. So how are you able to communicate? You have a lot of ideas going on in your brain, right? You're a great human being because you have accumulated a lot of knowledge in school. Are you able to communicate that in a way that people understand, people appreciate, and people follow? Because you could be saying gibberish and nobody understands what you're talking about. But you're a great person and you would be very much a valuable team member on any team you would join. So communication, I've seen, is one of those skills that we hardly talk about, especially in our education systems that encourage listening more than talking in the classroom, less questioning of the professor. A lot of us are more comfortable in our silent zone. But once you step out of school, really, it's going to dwell on how you're able to communicate, how you're able to tell your story of how you've moved from point A to Z, and how wherever you've been relates to where you want to go, and how whatever job you're applying to could be a great addition to your career journey. So having the communication skills, very important. The other thing I've seen is being able to network. It's a skill, being able to step into the unknown, step into a room of very new people you haven't met before and striking a conversation with people. And at the end of the day, getting away with a connection that is going to land you your next job. That's a skill that I don't think a lot of us get from school. I mean, we connect with our friends because we go to school with them, but we are not put in positions where we're interacting with people we hardly know and trying to talk about ourselves and what we want to do with our lives and how they can help us. So I'm realizing more now that if there's anyone on the call that is still in school, take advantage of networking opportunities that the school does, if any, career fairs that the school does, conferences. Go out there and start interacting with people you don't know and see how you can communicate about who you are, about what your life is about, what you want to do, and how these people can be very helpful. And sometimes it's as simple as asking questions about what they do, and from there understanding, okay, if this person works in this space, how can they help me, or how can I learn about what they do such that it informs my decision of either moving into that space or away from that space. So I'm finding communication, being able to talk to people, which I think are still intertwined, as some of the skills that I don't see us obtain in school, but I find are very important and relevant once you step out of school.
Thank you so much, Angela. Similar to you, I've spent so much time, although my experience might be slightly different from yours due to the fact that I've been invested so much into the tech world in the past, but chasing after the hard skills didn't really give me the satisfaction I needed until I began tapping into communication. And one of the examples I could give is the more I relied on how can I be able to write something that a person on the other end can look at and accept, to be convinced that I need the support that I'm requesting for. And it worked when I was applying for the University of Toronto. I had no money left on me, but I really wanted to come and do my master's. So what did I do? I sat down and wrote an email that convinced on the other end to pay for my application. I've been doing the same while campaigning for political positions. But where it became more evident was when I joined the workplace, and I realized that all the programming I had learned, all the data science, all the building systems I had learned wasn't going to take me anywhere further if I didn't know how to communicate, because you have to sell your ideas and you also have to advocate for yourself in front of executives. And that takes us into the other question that I'll have to ask Victor. As someone in tech, what skills do you find most valuable that weren't necessarily taught in school?
I'm going to
besides communication.
I'm first of all going to thank Angela for even talking about communication. If there is anything I still need to work on, despite moving this far, is how I think I heard it from one of the speakers. It says that it's not what you know, it's how you present what you know to the people. Because most of the people you're going to meet, be it when you're on transit, in commute, when you're on the subway, when you're in the taxi, when you're in the lobby, when you show up at work, all these people realize that they know a lot about their domains, right? And you too, know a lot about your domain, right? But the window of meeting and talking to these people it doesn't last like 10 minutes or 2 minutes. It's max 5 minutes. So how you present what you know, it really shapes a lot on if this person would even want to have an engagement after this encounter that you've had. I will give you an example. I went to a conference recently and I met one of the founders. She runs a startup based in agribusiness, and I only had 5 minutes of her. She stepped out of the conference, I stepped out, and she had to go back and present. Within those 5 minutes, I was able to land a new client, and we're working on a new deal. But I had to come out of the bubble of I've been programming, building softwares for the last 15 years, So you have a business. I believe the software I have can create value for your business and bring in new customers. Would you want us to have a chat, a coffee chat? That is much better than I went to UFT, I have a master's degree and a bachelor's degree and in tech, and you have to find ways of always wrapping all that you know and present it in the shortest time possible, such that can propel in the mind of the other person. So the soft skill that I find really critical is how do you market yourself? How do you present yourself to the world? Because realize that, and I've learned this in marketing, civic technologies, you realize that there are two people on the other side, there are people on the other side and you're this side. The bridge that connects you only opens for a given window for it's not there always. So you're going to have to max every opportunity, be it at church when you meet new people, be it in the bus, wherever you are. Try and market yourself in the shortest time possible while presenting what you know to the other person, such that they can think about it when they are gone, or when your encounter is done. So how do you market yourself and how do you present what you know? I think it's taught in school. You get to present proposals and projects and stuff like that. But there it's more technical. You talk about this proposal, can do this, we're going to do this, But in real life, no one has 30 minutes, an hour to even listen to what you know. They really want you to know that they want to come and you tell them that I can solve your problem. These are the skills that I have, and I think they're going to be valuable to you. And then that can open a new window. So back to you, Ahmed.
Thank you so much, Victor. And I'm glad you brought up the point of mastering how to present something or even how you market yourself for any opportunity. And if I look back at my own experience, I look at how I transitioned from working as an IT assistant in Uganda. Then my idea was to join the University of Toronto for it was critical information policy, because I knew I could defend myself when it comes to talking about leadership, but it was very difficult for me to do that when it came to programming, because I hadn't done that very much. But once I reached here and I noticed that data science is the hot cake, I immediately switched my program. And it's the job that I held initially while I was with a bank. But for the past 3 years, I've switched more than 3 teams, and each team had a different way of functioning. So the first team was with us building innovation products, and the second team was with strategy enablement, and my current team is with software asset management, which still amazes me at this point because I never dreamt of being a software asset manager, or even knew what it meant. But getting into this domain and being able to perform at my peak is something that I've only been able to reach at because I try to master how I show up, or even how I present my ideas to the people out there. And what I learned through all these experiences is that there's really no job you can't do as an individual. It's just how you show up and the mindset you bring on the job. Once people notice that you're someone who isn't going to just give up on something, you're going to look for the solution wherever it is, they'll give you a chance, no matter whether you go, unless you're trying to go into medicine, those highly regulated fields where you need to know exactly what you're going to perform a surgery on. But if there are roles that require information and being able to manage knowledge, you just have to really be confident and know how to present your ideas. And the tactic I can leave our audience with that I've been able to tap into is, once you learn how first principles work, an example is for a chef to prepare a meal for you, they will have to pick up a couple of ingredients and make sure they know how they are going to mix them up to make a very delicious meal for you. It's the same with a programmer. You need to know which language you're going to use, what are you going to build first, and what will come on top of that until you build something that people will look at and appreciate. If you're a writer, you still need to know something about the alphabet, which words am I going to use? And then once you grow in experience, you master more tactical tricks you can use to write something that can resonate with people on the other end. And that is a perfect opportunity for us to go into how one can build their support systems as well as network their way into an opportunity, because none of us can do it alone. Angela, you've built a strong support system over the years. Can you share how you did that and why it's so important?
Yeah, I really just smiled a lot, people. How have I been able to build a network? I think people, as a species, we love to talk about ourselves, right? And when given an audience, people will talk about themselves. And one thing that I really, really mastered, I think, from my undergraduate degree, is asking people questions about what they did. And through that, I was able to find ways I could connect with them, because there's no way I'm going to connect with someone without knowing what they're about and how I fit into their life. So for me, it was mostly, and I would say this from a very professional development point of view, there are things called informational interviews. If you're a person who wants to make connections with people, you need to host those. These are interviews that you do with people that you look up to, people you admire, people that are in spaces you're interested in. You reach out to these people and ask them literally to tell you about what they do. You're not asking for a job, but you're essentially trying to get to know them. I'll give you an example. When I grew up in a very interesting neighborhood in Kampala, Uganda. And around me came a new neighbor, and this neighbor was a television host. I used to watch her on TV, and it so happens this lady moved to my neighborhood. How lucky I was. And I used that as an opportunity to connect with her. And I knew, how was I going to do that? I wasn't sure, but at the time I knew I had to talk to her. And the way I went about it was, she had children, and they were young, pretty younger than me. So I made relationships with those kids. I just befriended them and we became friends. We started talking and having a good time with the children. The children led me to connect with their mother, because there's no way I was going to get any contact with this person just randomly. So I connected with her through her kids, who I had built a good relationship with. And when I met her, I knew what I had to do. I had prepared myself because I knew this person works in this space, and this is a space I'm interested in, kinda. I'm glad that I'm doing this presentation because younger me was interested in being a journalist. Never happened, but it's happening somehow. So I set up, I went and talked to this lady and told her, hey, I'm really interested in what you're doing. I like what you're doing. I watch you all the time. Can I have a few minutes of your time? I just want to learn about the industry that you're in and what you're doing. And she gave me time. She was very happy to do it. People are usually very happy to talk about themselves, like I said at the beginning. So when I went there, I had a list of questions. I was very prepared for the conversation, from what led you into this field? What are you liking about this field? What don't you like about this field? What would you tell somebody interested in this field? What are the trends that you're seeing coming up in this field? I had the questions, and there was nothing about, can I get a job? Can you help me find a job? And I've learned that's how I've made relationships with all the people I've come to connect with. When I graduated from Ashasi in 2019, I moved back to Uganda. And the people that I connected with, like I said earlier, were alumni of Ashesi. And how I connected with them was through church. Again, there was a mutual understanding there. I went to church, I found them, we connected over tea and breaking bread as Christians. And once I discovered that they were in two spaces that I was interested in, I started asking questions. What are you doing here in Uganda? What work are you doing? How is it working in Uganda as a foreign person? How was it to transition into a new location? And through that conversation, I was already building rapport and getting to know them on a personal level, that when the time came for me to get a job, to look for a job, I just said passively in a conversation that we occasionally had, like, hey, I'm actually graduating soon and I'm coming back home and I'm not sure where to start. Do you have any tips and tricks that I can use? And guess what? They had tips and tricks for me, because they're like, oh yeah, there's an opportunity that I just saw recently that I think would be perfect for you. And that's how I got my first job. And the current job that I have, it was an interesting one. Again, through connections, through relationship building with people. And I'll probably add another element to that, is that when you get to know people, you've had a window into their life. Now it's time for you to show what you're about. What are you good at? If you get an opportunity to work with them at any point in time, that's your time to shine. That's your time to talk about what you're interested in, places you'd like to work, fields you'd like to be in, because when the opportunity comes, they'll think about you. Oh, Angela said she's interested in communication and working for such a company. There's a job that just opened up. Let me recommend her. That's how I got my current job, because when I moved to the US, I was a student like everybody else, but I continued to make relationships and work in spaces I was familiar with. Baobab, if you're not on Baobab, you're missing out. So I joined the platform and worked with them continually. And while I continued to work with them, I made it clear that once I graduate, these are the things I want to do after school. And I wasn't particular about where, but I knew I was aware of the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to do something in strategic development. I wanted something around tech. I wanted something around marketing and communication, because that's a strength that I have. So when I graduated and something opened up, they were like, oh yeah, Angela has been talking about doing something ABCD. Something just opened up. I was top of mind for them, so because they knew what I wanted. So it's like a game. It's like a game for when it comes to networking. Get into understanding people for who they are. Get to know about their work. Get to know about what makes them happy, what makes them sad. And once you have that relationship, then bring yourself to the table. Tell them about what you're interested in. Tell them about what you're struggling with. And along the way, they're going to mentor you, because usually these are people that you're either looking up to or are senior people in their career journeys. Ask them questions about how to navigate things. If you're looking for a job, hey, I'm looking for a job in these spaces, but I'm not sure where to start from. people will always be willing to help, but you have to bring yourself to the table. So yeah, that's how I'll probably navigate in my relationships. But smile a lot too helps.
Thank you so much, Angela. And very close examples I could give are just right here on the screen. I met Angela, I believe, in 2012.
Yeah, 2012. Gosh, that's so long ago.
And that's around 10 years now. But the relationship that we kept back then, which was around how we support each other as we go through East High School, enabled me to easily grab an opportunity with alumni in residence 10 years later. And when it comes to Victor, the conversation that we had on the floor of the information school at the University of Toronto has seen us go through all the challenges successfully through all these years that we've been together. And one thing that I've noticed about the whole Mastercard Foundation is that the more years have gone, the more the years have passed, is the more the network has grown. And if you really can't notice the fact that you can look at a minister within Rwanda who's a Mastercard Foundation scholar, you can look at people that are running the foundation in, let's say, the UK, part of them are Mastercard scholars, even just down the street here in Toronto. When you go into the office, you'll notice that some of the people that are running programs in these offices are Mastercard scholars, and you won't really need to go further out to find the support you need, but you need to go out there and meet these people. They need to know who you are. They need to know what you stand for. They need to know what you're capable of doing. And to talk about the being top of mind when people have opportunities and stuff, one of the tricks I've discovered recently, I discovered in the past couple of years, is the fact that you can make the universe work for you when it comes to networking, because you're not going to be part of every call. You're not going to be part of every event. You're not going to be part of everything around the world. But once you get smart, as Angela mentioned, you can make the universe work for you. And one of the tips I've noticed is writing. So just go learn about something that you want to be involved in, begin writing about it. Once people figure out that, oh, Emmanuel knows a lot about, let's say, automating systems in health, you will be the person they will reach out to when it comes to pushing efforts around these particular ideas. So you don't have to wait for events. You have to act smart, write, go to events, make speeches in front of people. Once they remember you, once opportunities come to their desk, they will still remember your name and they will reach out to you to give them to you. And I don't really want to end the call without giving most of the attendees or whoever will have a chance to ask us questions to bring it forward. But before we wrap up, I would love for both of you to share one piece of advice in under 1 minute that you wish someone had given you when you first transitioned out of school. Victor, let's start with you.
Thank you for that question. Advice. There's a lot of advice that I can give, but I would like to start with this. It's that uncertainty is part of this game. Like, you're not going to be sure of the decision that you're going to take, from where you get your first apartment after leaving grad residence, to your first job, to accepting your first offer, to even what company you'll work for long term, to all going back to school. It's uncertainty that's resolved around the decisions that you do after school. What do I mean by that? During school, you're certain that if I read this book and I read this course material, I'm going to get an A, right? Now, in real life, you register business, you design a website, you design all the material, but that doesn't mean you're going to get your first client. I got my first client after 1 year of registering a business. And after cultivating a relationship for like 5 years that I've been in Canada, that's when I've been able to register my first client. So uncertainty is all around. Don't be overtaken by the success stories, but also acknowledge that uncertainty and failure is part of this journey. You're going to fail, you're going to make wrong decisions, but as the book says, think and grow rich. For every failure, there lies a seed of success. So take every failure as a lesson that there is a seed for me to success. There is a lesson for me here to learn that I can use later on as long as I'm still alive. So uncertainty is here, but you're never going to be sure. Just make that decision and then learn if you make a mistake or celebrate if you win. That's my advice.
Thank you so much, Victor. How about you, Angela?
So something I wish I knew in my transition journey is, I'm just thinking about a lot of things, honestly. But I think what comes to mind now is that it's not going to be easy. I think Victor has shared this. Transitions are very uncertain. You're dealing with something that you're not sure where it's going to go. And for most people like Victor who are in foreign lands, it's even scarier. I'll tell you this. When I graduated, a few months ago, 4 months ago, I was scared because I didn't know where I was going to find a job. And without a job, I can't stay here because I can't afford the life here, but also immigration-wise, I cannot stay without a job. So I was in constant panic about what was going to come next. But let me tell you what I did. I'm a Christian. And a lot of times we can do our part, right? But a lot of the times we can't control certain things. I can control so much as a human being. And for me, I really went back on my knees and let go. As hard as it sounds, that's the only thing that could bring me peace, knowing that whoever brought me to this land has a plan for me of where I'm going to go next. And I rested in that because there's a lot of things I couldn't really control. And when I found that peace, I just focused on the things that I could control. And what were those? Really getting my resume in check, getting to network with people, continuing to have conversations with people, continuing to send applications to places, because that's all I could control. But in those times, I just found peace and I slept, because again, when you're in a season of transition, it's usually a low season where you're not doing too much, you're doing the bare minimum. So rest in that period, because now I look back on those times and I'm like, I'm so glad that I rested during that time, because now I don't have that much time on my hands to rest, to go somewhere, because I have work to do. But in those seasons, rest. Do things that you're interested in. If you have the time, do things that you're interested in. Maybe explore something. I found solace in cooking. I tried recipes that I had never tried before because I had the time. And that kind of distracted me from all the pressure that I knew awaited for me in terms of finding a job. So much as it's very uncertain, find ways to distract yourself from it, because it can really consume you. Get off social media. Stop comparing yourself, because when you go on social media, then you see what your friends are getting. I'm happy to announce, I'm excited to share, when you go on LinkedIn and immediately you go into depression mode, because you're wondering, why is it not happening for me? Why is it happening for others and not for me? And it's only a matter of time before it happens for you. So really monitor your social media usage. And when you feel like you're overly stimulated and getting overly anxious and getting pissed off because you've read something, that is a sign for you to log off and focus on other things that are not on social media and about other people's lives. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Angela. strongly resonate with your point of getting off social media or avoiding to compare oneself, because sometimes it's after you start writing yourself on social media that you learn how people play into other individuals' desires or other individuals' fears when it comes to it and all those things. But yeah, I appreciate the fact that you've been able to share all these with everyone that's watching, and I believe they've learned something from it. But before we close off in the next 10 minutes, I'll give the audience a chance to ask their questions, but I'll begin with one that was sent in the chat earlier on. It was for Victor, and it says, do you feel like your postgraduate degree contributed to your motivation to start a business, or why did you consider furthering your education?
I'll be really quick here. Yes, my postgrad, my undergrad, and real life experiences contributed to me starting a business. First off, just to let everyone know that I didn't come to Canada with a vision that I'll build a business and I'll hunt clients down. It was through solving someone's challenge that I realized that this could spring out into something big. But even then, I still needed the knowledge that I got at the University of Toronto. First off, things like, how do you even present, how do you even talk in the Canadian context? Because the Ugandan context that I had didn't really make sense to the Canadians. So how do you talk in the Canadian context? And the other thing is, if I didn't attend grad school, this whole thing wouldn't really be there, because the way things happened, this story is interesting. I met Ahmed. When I landed in Canada, I knew no one. I literally knew myself, and I knew that I had to go to UFT. I'm not a Mastercard scholar, so there were so many questions. For you guys, I used to tell Ahmed, I knew that you landed, you knew you're going to grad school. I had to land, find a house, find my classroom, and do all these things. But when I was on the floor of the School of Information at UFT, I was looking for someone to talk to, and I saw Ahmed walking. I was like, of all the people, I'm going to talk to this black guy, and I'm going to make sure he's going to be my friend. So and when I talked to Ahmed, funny enough, he was a Ugandan from Makerere. I was like, this is it. And through Ahmed, I met another friend called Henry. And through Henry, I met another friend called Hamza and Isma. And these are my clients. So you see the ripple effect of just me going to UFT, how it has had consequences beyond than my expectation. So it really shaped, and I would say it plays a cornerstone in seeing this as a success. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Victor. The second question I can see here is, how do you manage the anxieties in transition? I can answer this first. So, first of all, words have no meaning unless what you give them to. So if I come and I tell you that I'm anxious, I won't be able to explain to you what I even mean by that. There are explanations you're going to come across in dictionaries or books or elsewhere, but if something is making you anxious, you'll have to get to the deep or even to the core challenge you're going through. Is it fear? Is it a lack of information? Is it, you really have to understand what's exactly causing the anxiousness for you to solve what you think is being anxious. And then the other thing is, the more it's okay for you to accept that at some points, an example is public speaking. I've met people that speak in front of audiences of over 1,000 people, and they will still tell you that they feel anxious before speaking in front of people. Yet you're someone who hasn't even given any speech in your life. and you're having the same. So these fears never go away, but the more you try out things, is the more you realize that whether you know it, whether you don't, you can always take the first step and figure out whether you want it or not. So you just have to throw yourself into the wilderness, try things out, you write. At some point, I envision myself becoming a musician. So once I get enough resources, I'll see myself doing that. I've already convinced myself that life is short. I should try out as many things as I can before life grabs them away from me. Angela and Victor, what words of kindness do you have for the audience about managing anxiety during transition?
Like I said, anxiety is definitely going to be there. I mean, because you don't know what's going to happen next. So that's inevitable. And anxiety is a sign that you don't know where you're headed, because a lot of times when you know what's going to happen next, you rest in that, you're comfortable. But anxiety is a sign that things are a little bit shaky and I'm not sure how to feel. But I like what you shared, Ahmed. Interrogate those feelings and ask yourself why you feel that way. Is it that you don't have the job? What can you do about it? Go look for a job. Is it that you don't have a place to stay? Maybe that's the time for you to reach out to friends. Is it that you feel lonely? I saw a question from I think Emmanuel asking about do you miss home? Are there times where you wish you worked in your home country? I wish I worked in my home country, honestly, because much as it's glamorized living abroad, and this is a series, by the way, a shameless plug. I'll be talking about living and studying abroad on Instagram. So follow Baobab for all the good stories I'll be sharing on there of how I've navigated the journeys over the years. But I would say, yes, I miss home. I wish I were having this meeting from home and having some tea and with some familiar snack I want to eat. But I don't get that luxury here. I have to struggle to find things that I like. I have to struggle to blend into the community. I like what you shared, Victor. When you saw Ahmed, you're like, this is a Black guy. I need to talk to him. A lot of times that's how it feels like in a foreign land where it's majority white people, less Black people. So when you see a Black person, like, that's my sister or brother. I don't care where you're from, but we are the same color. It just makes sense. So living abroad, going through transitions, it comes with its own anxieties. But I think it goes back to you knowing why you're doing the things you're doing, why you're where you are, and sticking to that plan, because it's easy to get distracted and start freaking out and get a ticket and you're like, you know what, I'm going back home because things are not working. But in that season is when you actually have to stay grounded and have a plan of action, pray to whoever you pray to for some guidance, talk to people, because you can't do it alone. You need people around you to help you navigate that journey. Your friends, your mentors, if you don't have any, your coaches, if you have some, because they help you navigate that journey. Can be lonely.
Thank you so much, Angela. How about you, Victor?
For me, like all of you guys, like what guys are typing in the chat, anxiety is real. But first off, I think I'm at a stage where I acknowledge that the challenges that I'm facing or things that are bringing me anxiety are not unique to me. Like I'm not the first person to build a business. I'm not the first person to graduate from UFT. I'm not the first Black person to land in Canada. So there is someone who has gone through this journey before me. And for me, it was a colleague of ours, Senna Sali, and Ahmed and Dorcas. When I connected with these guys, I made sure I honestly share how I feel. And to my surprise, it was like a bounce back. These guys used to share exactly how they felt, frustrations. Getting my first job, I had to apply 390 positions. 390 positions. And so when I talked to Ahmed, he used to tell me I'm more than, you know, when we hit the 100 mark of applications, he told me, yeah, I'm past 100. I'm past 200 applications. I'm past 300. And when we landed our first job, guess what? It was a celebration because what? We had walked this journey together. We had shared every pain, every bit. And I don't know how to say this, but find people who are exactly in the same spot like you, people who you can be honest with.
Mm-hmm.
It could be at grad school or it could be at Baobab. This is a platform. Find people who you can share with such that it gets you to a point whereby if Ahmed is struggling and I'm struggling, if we combine energies, I remember Ahmed telling me that let's combine avenues of job hunting. And before we knew it, Ahmed landed his first job in May after grad school. I landed mine in September. Space of 3 months or so, but we've combined energies to even tackle immigration, to tackle like businesses, ideas, such that the best we are moving on is that we share exactly where we're at and how we can navigate these challenges. So in brief, find your tribe and make sure you're honest to that tribe. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Victor. And a short story I can share about it. I know we are time, but it's after experiencing life of a 9 to 5, which is more of a corporate back home, we realized that it's not enough alone on its own, and that's when we thought about starting businesses and stuff. And Victor was a success at that game. He already knew how to source for clients and all those things, and the anxiety grew in me. So I reached out to him and he said, oh, you have to do this and this and this and this and this. And luckily enough, I tapped into my network, and that's when Angela brought me this opportunity of the alumni in residence. And that really conquered my fears when I realized that I can earn something outside of my corporate job. And once that clicked, I accepted, okay, it's just the fears that keep on pushing me away from pursuing my goals, and being able to be around someone who could guide me along, or someone who could acknowledge the fears that I had, because most of the times you're going to be judged by your peers who aren't on the same path as yours. They'll keep on asking you, why are you doing this all the time? Why do you write this nonsense on LinkedIn? Why do you do this? But if you hang around people that have the same hang as you, people that really strive for the betterment of tomorrow as you do, you'll never hear any of those questions come up. And even though, because you can't really avoid people from judging you, so even when that moment comes when someone judges you, it's okay, because for as long as you get what you want out of whatever you're doing, their words will soon become shadows. Thank you all for your questions, but unfortunately we won't be able to answer any of them, and we'll try to follow up after the event. Thank you so much.
Beyond the skies, you and I